The screen of my phone illuminated my face in the darkened office as I stared at the message that had just arrived. My father's name appeared above words that seemed to burn into my vision. "We no longer trust you. Don't come to the office tomorrow." The quarterly financial report I'd spent weeks preparing, the one revealing $1 million in unauthorized transactions, lay open on my laptop beside me. The company logo at the top of the document, our family name Leighton, suddenly felt like a stranger's. I gripped the edge of my desk so hard my knuckles blanched white. The building I'd helped design, where I'd worked 80-hour weeks for years, suddenly felt like it was collapsing around me. The family photos on my credenza, hiking trips, holiday celebrations, the ribbon cutting at our headquarters, stared back with newfound accusation. My fingers moved without conscious thought, typing just one word in response: understood. "My name is Rachel, I'm 32 and a financial analyst. This is the story of how I chose truth over blood and watched an empire crumble because of it." For 7 years, I'd been the backbone of Leighton Technologies, our family's software company in Denver. As Chief Financial Officer, I'd guided us through market downturns, expansions, and acquisitions with meticulous attention to detail. My father James had founded the company with my mother Olivia in the 90s, creating enterprise software that grew from our garage into a $30 million business. My older sister Natalie ran marketing with her trademark charisma, and my younger sister Patricia managed human resources, always the peacekeeper between us. Growing up, we'd been close, summers hiking in the Rockies, winters arguing over board games. But working together changed things. Natalie became the golden child, her flashy presentations winning Dad's constant praise. My victories were in spreadsheets and projections, quieter wins that saved us millions but rarely earned recognition at family dinners. The first sign of trouble appeared during a board meeting 2 years earlier. I'd proposed cutting costs on a risky expansion Natalie championed. The look she gave me wasn't just disagreement, it was betrayal, as though questioning her vision was questioning her worth. Dad sided with her instantly, calling her the future of Leighton. I swallowed my objections, but something shifted between us that day. After that meeting, Natalie began sidelining me, taking credit for financial strategies I'd developed. Clients began thinking she was the financial mastermind behind our growth. Patricia would pull me aside in the hallway, her voice hushed. "Just let Natalie have this one, Rachel. You know how she gets." It felt less like advice and more like a warning. The real turning point came late one night when, buried in quarterly reports, I discovered a payment of $50,000 to a company called Mountain Vista Consulting. The transaction had no corresponding invoices, contracts, or deliverables, just a vague note about strategic services and Natalie's signature on the approval. "This is probably just an oversight," Patricia said when I mentioned it over lunch the next day, her eyes darting to the exit. "Mom and Dad hate conflict. Let it go." But I couldn't. Over the next 3 months, I found 4 more payments to Mountain Vista, totaling $250,000. A month later, the total reached $500,000. By the 6-month mark, Natalie had authorized $1 million to a company that, as far as I could determine, didn't exist. I documented everything: transaction dates, account numbers, Natalie's signatures. When I finally felt ready to present my findings, I scheduled a private meeting with my parents, bringing printed evidence organized in a binder with the Leighton logo embossed on the cover. "These are serious accusations, Rachel," my father said, not even opening the binder. Beside him, my mother's expression was blank, unreadable. "It's not an accusation, Dad. It's documentation," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "Natalie has been transferring company funds to a shell corporation. There's no trace of legitimate services being provided. Your sister has secured our biggest accounts," Mom said quietly. "She's bringing in millions in new revenue. And losing millions out the back door," I countered, pushing the binder closer to them. Dad finally flipped through a few pages, his expression hardening with each turn. "You've always been jealous of your sister's success," he said, closing the binder firmly. "This looks like a witch hunt." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Dad, the numbers don't lie. This isn't about me or Natalie. This is about the company." "We'll handle it," Mom said, ending the conversation. "Don't mention this to anyone else." I left their office shaken. That night, I backed up all my evidence to a secure cloud drive, sensing something was very wrong. The next week, I was excluded from executive meetings. The week after, my financial reports required Natalie's approval before submission. My access to certain accounts was restricted for security purposes. Patricia stopped making eye contact in the hallways. And then, 3 weeks after I'd presented my evidence, came the text that severed everything: "We no longer trust you. Don't come to the office tomorrow." I didn't cry that night. Instead, I made a decision that would change everything. If my family chose Natalie's lies over my truth, they would face the consequences together. I took my evidence to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division and the IRS the very next morning, driving to the local field office with my laptop and backup drives containing every transaction record I had gathered. "These transactions follow a classic embezzlement pattern," said Agent Walker, reviewing my files. "How long has this been going on?" "At least a year that I can document," I answered. "But I suspect longer." The investigation began quietly. I moved to a small apartment across town and took consulting work with a firm specializing in financial ethics. For months, I heard nothing from my family except formal communications from their lawyers demanding I return company property, as if the truth was something they owned. 6 months after my exile, the Latent Technologies sign was removed from our building. The FBI had frozen the company's assets, and major clients were fleeing. I learned through Agent Walker that Natalie had disappeared 2 days before the first subpoenas arrived, reportedly flying to a country with no extradition treaty. The $8 million she'd ultimately embezzled, a number the FBI investigation had uncovered and that stunned even me, was mostly unrecoverable. I was working late one evening when my office phone rang. The receptionist's voice was hesitant. "Rachel, your family is here. All of them." My heart pounded as I walked to the conference room. My family had obtained my workplace address from a former colleague who remained in contact with both sides. Through the glass door I could see them, Dad looking decades older, Mom's perfect posture now slumped, Patricia's eyes red-rimmed. With them sat Alan Mitchell, our family's longtime attorney. The room fell silent as I entered. No one stood. "Rachel," Dad began, his voice unfamiliar in its humility. "Natalie's gone. She transferred $8 million to an offshore account and fled. The FBI found documents," his voice broke. "Documents she forged with your signature, making it look like you approved the transfers." My mother couldn't meet my eyes. "We are facing bankruptcy, criminal charges, everything we built," she whispered. Patricia pushed a file across the table. "The IRS is auditing every transaction for the past decade. We don't understand half of what they're asking for." I looked at the file without touching it. "And now you need my help." "We are family, Rachel," Patricia pleaded, tears streaming down her face. "You're the only one who can make sense of this." I studied them. The people who had dismissed my warnings believed Natalie's lies and cast me out without a second thought. In their faces, I saw not remorse for how they'd treated me, but fear of losing everything. "When I showed you proof of Natalie's embezzlement, you called me jealous," I said quietly. "When I tried to protect our company, you restricted my access. When I stood for the truth, you sent me a text message ending 27 years of trust." I stood up. "You chose Natalie. Now you can face the consequences of that choice. You'd let the company collapse? Everything we built together." Dad's voice rose, a flash of the authority he once wielded. I met his gaze steadily. "You already let it collapse when you ignored financial crimes happening under your roof. You let it collapse when you chose Natalie's fiction over my facts." "We were wrong," Mom whispered. "We see that now." "No," I corrected her. "You see it now because it's affecting you. There's a difference." I walked out of that conference room with my shoulders straight, leaving behind the broken remnants of what had once been my world. The next morning, I called Agent Walker and offered to help the investigation, not to save my family, but to ensure the truth was documented in its entirety. My evidence accelerated the case, making it impossible for my parents to claim ignorance. Latent Technologies filed for bankruptcy 2 months later. My parents faced a $10 million fine from the IRS for financial misconduct tied to Natalie's shell companies. Natalie remains a fugitive, living in isolation somewhere beyond the reach of American law. Despite international alerts, she's never been apprehended. The FBI formally cleared my name of any wrongdoing related to the forged documents in their final report. Patricia still sends occasional texts, each one a variation of, "Can we talk? You're still my sister." I read them but never respond. I've made the definitive decision that some betrayals can't be undone with apologies, and our relationship remains permanently severed. I've built a new life now, working for a consulting firm specializing in corporate ethics. My expertise was forged in the fire of my family's collapse, and I use it to help others avoid similar fates. I don't speak my family's name anymore. I don't need to. The hardest lesson wasn't losing the company or even my family. It was recognizing that blind loyalty is just another form of blindness. I grew up believing family came first, no matter what. But I learned that responsibility to yourself and your principles matters more than clinging to a family that chooses comfort over truth. To anyone facing a similar choice, I say this: trust the numbers when they don't add up. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong. And know that sometimes, standing alone with the truth is better than standing with family in a lie. I chose integrity over allegiance. That choice cost me my family but gave me something more valuable, a life I can face in the mirror each morning without flinching. As for my parents, I've never spoken to them again after that meeting. Our family ties were permanently dissolved the day they chose to believe Natalie over me. And I wouldn't trade my integrity for any company, fortune, or family name.